as I come to you right now, live over on Twitch, live over on YouTube, and Sportscaster trailing behind. 1, 2, 3, there we go. What is going on, everybody? XFL Week 3, Sunday only slate. Now, my sheets, I didn't update them for the 2-game Sunday only stuff. The prices are pretty much the same, so we can go off of what we have here. It's more so strategy. I think the Sunday only, and I mean, I can literally go through and start chopping guys off who have already played, right? So we can go through and start doing some things like this if you really want to, but I could just leave it on there for now. But I really just want to take questions, kind of review yesterday if people want to. I'm not sure how interested people are of yesterday's stuff, really waiting to chart myself some of this stuff, but at least from a stats perspective, we don't know how much to really trust. What's going on, morning, Miami Mike? How you doing? We don't really know how much to trust the stats that we're getting from the XFL at this point, but games yesterday, Houston, both those games were really entertaining. The first half more entertaining in Dallas and Seattle, maybe the third quarter, but Houston and Tampa Bay back and forth the whole time. Houston, the only team now to go over the total all 3 weeks in the XFL. Even today they will be. They were the only team to go over the first 2 weeks. So with that said, coming to you live around 10:50 a.m. East Coast time at this point. I'm excited to just chat, just take any questions that are out there for this 2-game slate. Pulling up the 2-game slate right now, just salary-wise, just to see if there's any differences pricing-wise on the dollar. But the 222s buy-ins have gotten much, much larger over really this weekend. It was a bigger buyout or bigger winnings for the Saturday slate. Will this work for FanDuel as well? What's going on, Cody Mayfield? Yeah, this will work for FanDuel. I'm just taking any questions here. You're getting at this point, I believe, the exact same pricing on all of the players. Quarterbacks, I know, are the exact same pricing. Running backs, I believe, are the exact same pricing. And I would assume then that, yes, wide receivers are the exact same pricing. So I don't even have to worry about downloading the file. All the players on the 2-game slate are exactly the same price. I'm just going to delete the players that already have played from yesterday. I don't really think I need any reason to keep them on there at this point. So quarterback is a very difficult. I mean, you think you have 4 for the 2-game slate, 4 very strong and viable quarterback options today. Obviously, Cardale and Jordan Ta'amu are going to be the ones to pick up the most ownership. They deserve it. Median projection-wise, they'll probably look like the best options. But if you're talking about how do you find your value of the slate? How do I find my value of the slate? Lots of work. You can factor in projections, ownership, a ton of that. All the research that I do throughout the week. It's not a clear-cut, straightforward, black and white answer. It's just work, I guess, at the end of the day, projections, ownership, and based on the research that I've done. But I missed first place by 2 players on yesterday's slate. Damn, so you played a 2-game slate. What's going on, Rodney? How you doing? Presley or Cook? I would prefer. So Jerry Swiney, that's a tough question to answer because it's not really the question that you're asking me, if that makes sense. So you're not asking me to pick between Presley and Cook because that's a price difference of $2,000+. Are you just leaving that money on the table, or are you getting up elsewhere? If you're getting up elsewhere, let me know where you're getting up to, and I can help you out there. But Presley or Cook is not the answer that you're looking for, in my opinion, because their price difference is so far. I will go Presley there, but he's priced $2,000 more expensive. So it's not that clear cut and dry, if that makes sense. I'm just going to delete these players from the games from yesterday, and we can get underway because all the pricing is the exact same for this slate. Bam. Delete. And I mean, if we're going to be talking about the 2-game slate, these guys all become interesting at this point. They're both $15 on FanDuel between Presley and Cook. Yeah, I'd still give the lean to Presley there. Just with Victor back. Victor is probably the better back in New York anyways. Do you like Cook to get the bulk of the load? No, I do not. I think that Victor should see pretty much right around half. He practiced in full to end the week. It was a head injury. Don't think it was a concussion. So seems like he should be going right back out there for where he did see the full bulk of the workload week 1. I expect to see similar things this week. Do you think the St. Louis has any chance to turn around their offense today? St. Louis's offense, what's been wrong with their offense? They want to run the ball. They run the ball 57% of the times. By all accounts, their offense, in my opinion, has looked fine. Their passing offense, they just don't want to pass the ball. They want to run. They want to run nonstop. I don't think they're going to change that today. They are 7-point favorites, 7.5-point favorites. 7.5-point favorites, a 24.75 team implied total. I expect St. Louis, at least on paper, to run the ball today. Hey, Sal, Carmelo or Will Barton for FanDuel GPP? I'll take Carmelo there. Can't trust their source information. I got stuck with somebody who hardly played. David, who are you alluding to in terms of? I'm not too sure who your source is, but who is your the player that hardly played. I'm not too sure which year. He saw 49% of the snaps, more than Matt Jones. Matt Jones is questionable today, but leaning towards playing. But you saw last week, he saw his workload reduce a little bit, and maybe that is because of an injury. So I think at the price point at running back this week, yeah, Christian Michael for the 2-game slate stands out as maybe one of the 2 best value options on this slate. But he hasn't shown any sort of effectiveness. He's 14th in elusive rating. Has only ran 12 routes per week. So I think that he's in a strong running back by committee, like every single other running back on this slate. So I'm very meh to Christian Michael. I don't get excited about him, but I don't think he's a bad play. So Miller Park asks, do you think St. Louis will fix their passing game? No, they just don't want to pass. They're passing the ball 43% of the time. They just don't want to pass. And they're 7.5-point favorites today, so I don't think they'll need to. No problem, Brian. Do you like Ross to have a big day like he says he will? I'm not factoring in that he says he will all that much. He still has to beat defensive backs, no matter how angry that he is. There's still XFL caliber cornerbacks going to be facing him today. And so I think Rashad Ross is a fine play. I don't take him tweeting that he's going to get revenge to make me like him more. I don't get excited about that. And if people are going to make him a better play because of that, I think it's just the wrong decision to make. Him saying I'm going to play harder does not change the fact that he has to get open against a defense. So I do think that he is still a strong play today, but he's on a team that has 3 strong wide receivers, and he's probably only going to end up seeing 5 to 6 targets. There's just not enough targets to go around for him, and his team's a touchdown favorite. Like, to think that Rashad Ross has a 10-target game, you would have to significantly take away targets from Eli Rogers, significantly take away targets from DeAndre Tompkins, unless you think the game stays close. Like, if they end up playing like how they have in close games to where they've led as well, Cardale Jones is going to throw like 26 to 28 times. If Cardale Jones is throwing 26 to 28 times, Rashad Ross is going to end up with 5 or 6 targets. Now, he has the highest upside targets because they're all downfield at this point. 5 out of his 7 or 20-plus yards down the field. So, yeah, you're banking on the Deshaun Jackson of the XFL right now, just for a lack of a better comparison, but I think it's a solid one. Do you think his 30-yard deep pass is going to be completed for a touchdown? If you do, he's going to break the 2-game slate. So I think he's a strong play. I do not think he's any sort of a lock, though. What is a top running back today, do you think? There's no top running back today. Like, we'll see what happens with Matt Jones. I think Darius Victor at 4,700 is interesting because he's cheap, and every single running back on the slate is in a backfield by committee, and all of them are more expensive than him. Tim Cook is obviously cheaper on his own team, but I think Victor just has more passing game upside. But none of them stand out all that much. Christian Michael should see a 50-50 split with Matt Jones. Saw 17 touches last week, has been extremely ineffective on his touches. But Christian Michael and Matt Jones find themselves in the offense that's going to try and run the ball 55% of the time today. So I think the St. Louis running backs stand out. I think Darius Victor is interesting. The DC guys are just priced too much. Like, I don't want to be wasting my salary on those guys if they're each going to see 50% of the snaps. What DC receiver do you like the most? It depends on what your lineup looks like, but DeAndre Tompkins at his price point just looks good, but expect him to be probably the highest home player on the slate. I'm terrible at this XFL DFS. Yeah, I mean, I've been having a good time the first 2 weeks personally, and everything went right yesterday from the main lineup having Philip Walker, Parham, and Phillips, so it's looking pretty solid. I think Seattle defense as well didn't do too terrible. Cook looks appealing, but I feel like New York will abandon the run once they fall behind. Your thoughts? New York runs no plays. New York is going to just run like 45 plays today at best. They are terrible in terms of how many plays they actually get off. Dead last in the league by a wide margin. But they face a faster St. Louis team, so maybe you get a couple extra plays out of them. That being said, I'd rather have Darius Victor than Cook. Victor is going to be healthy today. They're both in a running back by committee. Will they abandon the run? I think they're going to just run the ball half the time. That's what they've done. The first couple of weeks, they're throwing about at a 65% clip right now, and that is because they've been trailing. I think you end up seeing somewhere around like 12 carries, and then also if they do throw more, I think it helps Victor more than Cook. What's going on, Jimmy Touchdown? What's going on? He says, do the DBs seem better than the wide receivers in the league so far? Do you think this will change in the time? I don't think the DBs seem better than the wide receivers at all. No, I think the wide receivers, if anything, seem better than the DBs. I mean, it depends on the exact team you're looking at. There's some guys that are defensive backs, 1 or 2, that'll probably be on NFL rosters next year. But there's just the offense is set up to be much better. When you could have a headset in a wide receiver's ear and say, hey, the play's coming to you, or hey, on that previous play, he was burnt downfield, now the play's coming to you, or hey, run a double move because he's been getting toasted today on that. He looks like he's injured. The wide receivers have a better upside, and that is what you've been seeing really this past 2 games, and really the past week or 2 is just the offenses are starting to get way ahead of these defenses. Is the XFL going to expand to 16 teams? I think if anything, maybe you get 12 teams next year, 10 teams. I know there's leagues City's interested, but I'm not too sure. Show wideouts. Yeah, I'll start to delete the wideouts that were on yesterday's slate, so we can get this down to a much more manageable. So I guess we're watching Joe Horn's status today. Matt Jones is expected to play, so is Joe Horn. Trey McBride, watch his status as well. Let me just delete all these names. And then I'll keep answering the questions. Get all these off this page for now. All right. Houston, bam, bam, bang. Get all those guys gone. Get all these guys gone. Show wideouts. Yep, we're working on it. Ross, I don't know what David just asked me. He says Ross or Suarez. I don't know who Suarez is, to be honest with you. I don't know if you're talking baseball. Even with St. Louis not passing a lot, do you think taking Tamu at quarterback over Jones is a good play? I think you don't even have to take either of them. Like, if you want to own the chalkiest quarterback on the slate, it's going to be Tamu or Jones. I think Josh Johnson and Matt McGloin both have upside at their price points on a 2-game slate. You saw it last night at Taylor Cornelius. He was less than 1% owned in all contests. He scored 23 fantasy points. Now you're going to have both of the quarterbacks who are actually underdogs in Matt McGloin and DC with Josh Johnson, both underdogs today, going to have to actually throw more than the quarterbacks they're facing. I think that opens it up so that they're cheaper price points. I'd rather own on the 2-game slate today in GPPs Josh Johnson and Matt McGloin before owning Cardale Jones and Jordan Tamu. Will Cardale Jones probably have the highest projection on today's slate? Yes. It's not by much, and he's going to throw equal or less than both Matt McGloin and Josh Johnson today. So I think a lot of people are going to own Tamu and Cardale Jones today. That makes sense. Like, they are on paper in cash games, probably your best options, although I'm very low on Tamu today. I would rather play Josh Johnson and or Matt McGloin at quarterback today than anybody else. Somebody says T.O. Redding. Not much interest there from me. Earlier, I meant to act New York's offense. Any chance against St. Louis at home? It's too early. Yeah, I think that New York has a fine chance today. Look, every single person that's going to play DFS is going to say, wow, the last 7 quarters, they haven't scored on offense. They looked terrible last week. Of course they did. They're going to be forced to throw the ball again. It's a good secondary in St. Louis, but you saw Tampa Bay have success yesterday against the Houston team that before yesterday had a good secondary, quote-unquote. So in GPPs, I have no problem playing McGloin. I have no problem playing the offense. I think one of the best plays on the entire 4-game slate and 2-game slate is probably McCall McKay from a GPP perspective, 3rd in the league in air yards. Just strong upside in that regard, in my opinion. Just dropped by to say what's up. Hope all is well, my guy. I'm fading XFL for NASCAR. Good luck today. Good luck, Bama. Good luck, my man. Good luck. You can one-off Tamu. Yeah, you don't need his... I wouldn't want to play his wide receivers. They're so expensive. Like Alonzo Russell, maybe, unless Washington's out and opens up more value. But you're hoping for the week 1 rushing upside plus more out of Jordan Tamu today. And he's priced up. So I think he's the worst quarterback option on the slate. Now he can go out there and score 30 fantasy points again and prove me wrong. But if we're trying to see how to best capitalize and use your dollars based on ownership, I expect him to be a top 1 or 2 owned quarterback. Trying to bank on an 80-yard rushing game from a quarterback on a day where he's probably going to throw the ball 24 to 26 times, it just seems really tough to want to pay the price point of $10,100. If he was $8,900 like he was week 1, yeah, go ahead, lock him in. But he's $10,100. He's probably, if I had to guess, going to throw the least amount on the slate. If you played these games out 100 times, he would throw the least amount over the long term. We'll see what happens today. And to try and bank on him running for 80-plus yards today is not something I want to do at a high ownership and high dollar amount. Have you heard any updates on Joe Horn? No, they'll probably release injury news an hour and a half before the game or so. Somebody says Ross Chastain or Daniel Scher. I have no idea who those people are. So not the. I'm assuming you were saying something about NASCAR. I have not ever watched a single lap. By all accounts, he was named the starter again this week. Do you think Toe Mogan gets a chance at a 50-yarder? No idea. You don't have the roster kicker, so it helps. Can you talk about your list on the screen a little, please? What list? Bam. I haven't updated this yet for the 2-game slate, so let me do that now. Do I have Saeed on here? Yeah, I do. Okay, good. We'll see. We have to see what happens with Malachi Dupree is also questionable. Smallwood seems okay. All right, that's where I'm at right now. Sneaky wide out today. Thanks. Good luck, fellas. It depends what happens with Trey Mcbride's status, but if Trey McBride is out, I actually think Saeed Blacknall is a pretty strong option who will probably be like 1% owned. He ran 43 routes week 1. He will pull snaps away from Adonis Jennings. So you have Smallwood locked into sort of a starting job on the outside, Spruce definitely in the slot. But now you have this weird situation where Adonis Jennings, Saeed Blacknall, and Trey McBride are going to play on the outside. You haven't seen Trey McBride this year. You saw Blacknall week 1. He ran 43 routes. He took snaps and pushed Adonis Jennings off the field. So I have no interest in Adonis Jennings anymore. But we don't know what the circumstances are with Trey McBride. If he's going to rotate in with Blacknall now, well, now they're both not seeing a ton of snaps, and it doesn't make Blacknall as nice. If Trey McBride is listed out today, I think Blacknall, with a better quarterback play than he had week 1, at least looks intriguing. Doesn't make him a lock by any means, no, but at 3,300, he'll have no ownership on him. And if there's no Trey McBride today, I think he runs 30-plus routes. Sal, I had Walker, Phillips, and Parham together also. Yeah, man. Look, I know how expensive Phillip Walker was, and I have lineups that have Josh Johnson. So the quarterbacks that I went with for the 4-game slate mainly were Josh Johnson and Phillip Walker. Sadly, had no Taylor Cornelius, but the Phillip Walker ones are looking good. The Josh Johnson ones are also looking good, but with the obvious caveat that those Josh Johnson ones don't have Phillip Walker. So if Josh Johnson can drop 30 points today, and the guys who I was able to get to, Nelson Spruce, in those lineups because of the price difference, it could pay off in those ones, but he's feeling really good right now. Looking to continue to grow on the first 2 weeks that have been very successful overall in XFL DFS. The best flex play under 6,000. Best flex play under 6,000. Well, I can guarantee you it's a wide receiver, so you don't even have to ask me about that, or tight end, but mainly wide receiver. There's no running backs that I would want to play in the flex. I do not like playing running backs in the flex. On the 2-game slate, it makes you a little bit more unique if you want to roster 2 running backs, but you're just going to have a lot more opportunities out of the wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins is the best play on the slate below 6K. You have Alonzo Russell down there. That becomes interesting. Depending on who's healthy, you have Saeed Blacknall, Joe Horn, those types of guys. Also, if you're watching this video right now, please do hit the subscribe button. We are approaching 19,400 subscribers. I really, really, really want to just hit that 20,000 subscriber number. So if you're watching right now or on the replay, so if you're live right now, take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well. It does help me out. I believe we're 39 away right now, updated away from 19,400 subscribers. So be sure to hit that. And also, be sure to subscribe over on the podcast as well. I'm doing a giveaway on the podcast. $50 will be announced tomorrow. There's only been like 4 people, so you got a really good chance of winning this if you just go and subscribe to the podcast on as many platforms as you want. I'll drop the link right now into the chat, but you subscribe to the podcast, you follow this link, and then in the corner of it will be, so I'll pull this up right now. Bam, look at this. How do we get this to work? There we go. You subscribe to the podcast, and in the corner of the podcast screen right here, you will see, let me just drop this in here, the link. In the corner of the podcast, you'll see these right here. So if you're somebody who has an Apple device, you can go over to iTunes. If not, you can go over to Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, wherever you listen, and just subscribe to the podcast. You get 1 entry into a $50 giveaway raffle that I will be spinning and reaching out to the winner tomorrow. And then if you also review the podcast, you get an additional 2. So rate and review, the 5 stars, say something nice. Takes literally 2 seconds of your time to hit the subscribe button and say, great show. And you got a, right now, 1 in 5 chance if you were to enter it at winning $50. That's the best 20% chance you're probably ever going to have at winning $50. That's a lie, probably, but without having to risk anything, right? Obviously, if you want to bet on coin tosses and stuff, you can win 50 or so. Is P.J. Walker better than Mitch Trubisky? I don't want to make any of these comparisons. The defenses in the XFL are much worse. I really don't know how to equate P.J. Walker's play, a good quarterback in the XFL, to a bad in the NFL. I would assume that Mitch Trubisky is a better quarterback. If you put Mitch Trubisky in the XFL, I would assume he would be doing similar things if you put him on the Houston Roughnecks. Keep in mind, it's not just P.J. Walker. He's looked fantastic, but if you were to put Josh Johnson healthy on the Roughnecks, he'd probably look just as good. So yes, P.J. Walker has looked great. He's made insane plays. That's all great composure, but he's in an offense that is literally allowing the quarterback to excel, right? it is structured so that he can look fantastic. Throw the ball damn near 70% of the time. Go 3 and 4 wide, so you have so many reads to go to. That's not going to happen everywhere, if that makes sense. Already subscribed, buddy. You do a good job. I like your advice, and you do a great job on your research and stats. Thanks, Al. Thank you, Travis. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Spruce is the fade for Smallwood. Huge price difference, so if you want to leave money on the table, I guess so. You just kind of said what I'm about to ask, but to confirm, if McBride is out, switch out Jennings for Blacknall. I'm doing the 4-game slate and have enough to switch. Yeah, I would prefer Blacknall over Jennings at this point. You saw week 1, Blacknall just push Jennings off the field. Now, who knows how healthy Blacknall is, but I would prefer Blacknall over Jennings. Think Tompkins is going to be like 90% though on the 2-game slate? 90% owned? No, not on the XFL. Blacknall on this 2-game slate might be like 60% owned maybe. There's just not enough people that follow this stuff. He should be in every single person's lineup. Derrick Rose or Ish Smith, a FanDuel GPP. I'll go Derrick Rose, but it's early. A lot of things can change, but I'll go Derrick Rose as of right now. Trubisky would be the best XFL QB. Yeah, I agree with that. So Blacknall is ahead of Jennings and will play in front of him. Based on week 1, yes. Blacknall ran 43 snaps, even though he's on the depth chart listed as a backup, and Jennings ended up just barely cracking 20 routes run. And Blacknall ran 43 routes. So, yeah, based on week 1, I would assume that Blacknall is ahead of Jennings in the pecking order here. Josh Johnson, good to go. He's listed with a questionable tag on FanDuel. Yeah, he's expected to play. He was listed questionable all week last week as well, and he played and did not re-aggravate anything. Like the videos. I don't win anything anywhere I like to watch, LOL. Thanks. Appreciate it, Gary. What's poppin', Sally V? What's going on, Ariel? He says, Jordan Taylor asks, Ross or Rodgers? I think Rodgers will be lower owned, believe it or not. I think Ross has higher GPP upside. So Ross or Rodgers is literally a coin flip at this point. Rodgers is going to have a better point projection. So if you want to play cash, he looks better. Ross has a much higher ceiling because of the targets that he has. So in GPPs, go ahead and get Ross if you want. In cash, Rodgers, but it's a coin flip for me. Do you think the XFL is coming back next year? Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, it's coming back next year. It's coming back for probably at least the next 3 to 5 years. The people who like to write articles that they don't have knowledge behind the articles they're writing, Vince McMahon literally has a 3-year debt plan, 3 to 5 year debt plan. Like, he knows he's losing millions of dollars these years because that's what happens when you start a business, especially when you're competing with the NFL. Well, not directly, but just trying to get fans right after the season. So, yes, the XFL, by all accounts, by their ratings, by the fact that they know they're going to lose money and they have projected ahead of schedule, they're coming back next year, unless something fraudulent happens that has not been reported about. But no, this is set up like a proper business. It is by all accounts going to make it through this year. And then if they start expanding in teams and all of that and get bigger cities into the league, it will continue to be good. It is exceeding expectations viewership-wise right now. Where are you getting the inactives news? On the XFL inactives page. Game inactives on the XFL page. Game inactives. Right here. Game inactives. XFL.com/US inactives. They have not released any of the inactives yet because the games, they usually do it about an hour and a half before lock. I didn't know Derrick Rose played XFL. Sal, your new nickname is Clark Kent. I don't know who Clark Kent is. I've heard the name, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm asking. I talked on the YouTube video for NBA this morning that I'll answer NBA questions as well right now. I'm just jumping on this for fun. We're live on Sportscaster too. I'm going to pull up the Sportscaster chat as I have a moment here. We're finishing up on a great weekend of golf. Lots of big names at the top of that leaderboard. Bryson, Rory's hovering around there. Patrick Reed, JT is the leader right now. Lots of great names. That looks fun and exciting. Excited to watch that. Excited to watch the XFL. NBA as well. If you like NASCAR and that's your thing, you can check that out as well. Are you familiar with / use XFL scrapper sites? Yeah, I'm familiar with them. I chart my own stuff, and I use a lot of PFF for anything other than that, but I have not used any of the XFL scrapper sites, but I am familiar with what they're doing, yes. The issue with the XFL live stats, if you're trying to scrap through that, is they're wrong. They're giving people more yardage and receptions through the first 2 weeks in a good amount of spots. So, like, a lot of them are scrapping, like, the stats at XFL.com, and those stats are inaccurate. Like, not all of them. Majority of them are probably accurate, 90% of them. But if you're, like, actually selling those stats in a different format, or you're using them to make projections, you're going to get inaccuracies. Clark Kent and Superman. Yeah, he's the guy before, right, with the glasses. Yeah, I got the glasses on. They help with light. I don't know if that's true. People tell me they're not, but oh well. It seems like I've seen some negative articles coming from ESPN/ABC. You're just seeing clickbait. That's what the internet is. If you look at the internet, 95% of the article headlines you see are going to be wrong, or try and make you think something else that will actually get you to click on them. When the people make articles that says ratings are down from 1 week in the XFL. No shit. When a new movie comes out week 1 in the box office, week 2 it doesn't recreate an all-time record-breaking performance. No. It's the first week of something. You build up all the marketing and interest. That's what happens week 1 of anything. Look at the XFL. Look at the NFL. Look at movie deals. So I projected the ratings to go down 35%. They went down about 32% or something like that. They're ahead of schedule there. The negative articles that you're going to see are going to be the ones titled from PFF or things that say XFL ratings are down, which just organically, if you don't really know much about the context of it, it's going to seem bad. That was literally expected to happen. You don't go from having your number 1 week in the box office to then just recreating that the next week. No, that's just not how it works. People have seen the product now. Not as many people are intrigued. Oy, oy, oy. Don't sleep on Brandon Barnes. He's the most overlooked Wildcat piece. I mean, I don't know how overlooked he is, right? I mean, a tight end who ran, you're going to get him to run 20 to 22 routes. He's very similar to, I'd prefer Brandon Barnes to Adonis Jennings today now. You probably get 2 to 3 targets out of him. You probably get somewhere around 20 routes run. Overall, this LA team through 2 weeks, small sample, but they're not that thrilled at using, I guess you can say, tight ends so far this season. If you want to just kind of take a look at it, he's being used around a little bit less than the elite guys, right? Nick Truesdale and Daniel Parham being the elite tight ends. He's being used similar to Kerry Lee, right? Kerry Lee's got 2 targets on the year. Barnes is, I think, 6 at this point, shorter distance on them. So, yeah, Barnes falls into the bucket of similar to Adonis Jennings, similar to the tight ends on really all these other teams. Falls into the bucket of if he scores a touchdown, he'll be great for you. If not, he's probably catching 1 to 2 passes for 20 to 30 yards. Oy. That's funny. Of course they are down. Sheeple are stupid. Roughly how many hours a week do you put into this business, Sal? How many hours a week? So it's a 7-day-a-week business. I'd say roughly around 80 hours a week. If I had to guess, probably 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But yeah, a lot of it, this counts as business hours, right? Although this is very casual, a Sunday slate for the XFL. I'm doing this more so to meet, 1, because I have time, and 2, to meet contract obligations for Sportscaster. Got to go live 2 to 3 times a week, and this would make that contract obligation met. Instead of just doing a recap on yesterday's game, let's answer some questions and actually help people. But probably this is my full-time job. I probably put about 80 hours a week into this. It's under the umbrella of an LLC, Vetri Media LLC. So full-time job. And it's extremely fun. Do you get a lot of takedowns? Do you get a lot of takedown in DFS? I'm assuming, do I win a lot is what you're saying. I do fine. Yeah, earlier in the year, I pretty much, by the stakes that I play at, I'll play the mid and higher stakes single entry and 3 maxes. I maxed out some golf tournaments this year, and I maxed out 1 NBA slate and the first week of XFL. XFL through the first 2 weeks, I am up about $6,700. I won about $7,300 or $7,400 week 1. Went from winning $2,700 last week to losing $700 after the late Teamu touchdown. And this week, we're very much in line to after our players go today, as long as they don't all get hurt, profit again. So, yeah, XFL has been really good. Alonzo Russell should have a good game today. The issue is he's the number 3 wide receiver on a team that's probably going to throw the ball 24 times today. So that's the issue. If LaDainian Washington is out, yeah, I think Russell has a better upside. But you're going to get 24 pass attempts today, and you're going to end up seeing 4 of them go to running backs. You're going to end up seeing 2 of them go to tight ends, and then you got 18 pass attempts for their 4 wide receivers. Yeah, I think Russell sees 5 or 6 of those. So you're banking on deep targets at that point for Russell, and he's the 3rd guy in the pecking order. At his price point, I think he's appealing today, yes. The issue is his team, on paper, should throw the least today. Sal, welcome to North Carolina. Snow is great. Chaos for a day, then it melts. Yeah, everybody lost their mind about the snow here. I was like, what? I've heard about it. I get it, right? People don't have their snow tires. People aren't used to it. People aren't used to driving in it, so it's not the same as Northeast. I understand it. Makes sense. Rose a good cheap running back for LA? No, I don't think so. DeJuan Harris is supposed to be back today, so although he ran ahead of DeJuan Harris week 1 as the running back 2, you're probably looking at 2 targets for Rose. You're probably looking at 2 carries for Rose. I just don't think there's much upside. Who do you like from the Lakers game today? I believe that's the early game. I'm not covering it. I haven't even looked at the prices. They're not on the main slate for NBA, so I'm just not covering it. Badette busted yesterday. Yeah, I guess he did, right? I don't even know what the live stats ended up being. I was so over the field on Parham that he was 100% into my lineups that I didn't get nearly as much Badette. What did Badette do? 2 catches, 13 yards on 4 targets. Yeah, they ended up utilizing Flynn more. Man, this man Lance Dunbar is just unreal. 11 targets out of the backfield. Damn, he's the number 1 running back in the XFL for DFS purposes. But Parham is just an absolute monster. Jesus, he's a monster. Yeah, also be sure to follow me on Twitter. I believe we crossed like almost 6,400 followers there. I love Malik Beasley for Minnesota tonight, Sal. I agree. Yeah, I think so too. Love the live shows. Keep it up, Superman. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, everybody. Can we see the running backs page? Yeah, I pretty much think they're all in play. I mean, I think if you want to play expensive wide receivers today, I mean, there's not really many on this slate. There's 2, and I don't think Pearsonell's that great. So running back's a crapshoot. You can play whichever one of them because you're probably going to have a ton of salary today, and I don't think any of them profile out all that much better than the other ones, right? I think Matt Jones is going to be playing a little bit hurt. He'll split the work with Christian Michael. Then Pumphrey and Presley are going to split the work even, except Pumphrey will be more active in the receiving game. Cook and Darius Victor should split the workload. Victor a little bit more active in the receiving game. And then Elijah Hood should be the guy who gets the most percentage of carries out of his backfield, but hasn't had a single target in the receiving game. So Elijah Hood's 8 to 12 carries today for 30 to 40 yards don't really help me that much unless he's falling into the end zone. QB Landry Jones. QB Landry Jones was yesterday's slate. He is not playing today, but what about him? Pumphrey over Victor. Huge price difference there. That's the thing. Like, I really don't have a strong stance on any of these running backs. I'm not playing the 2-game slate as of right now. I have a lot of positive lineups in the 4-game slate that I am all but fine letting them ride out today and watching what the results are. I have no interest in really going after the 2-game slate today. But that being said, your question on Pumphrey or Victor, I guess I'll go Pumphrey. He's actually ran 8 routes out of the slot this year, second most to Lance Dunbar, which is appealing. He's ran 30-plus routes overall, more than Victor, but obviously Victor was hurt last week. I think Victor is a very sleeper-type play. Now, his team's going to be trailing. They don't run a lot of plays. He might see 10 total touches. I think Pumphrey has a better upside of 15-plus touches, but also higher ownership. Nelson Spruce will be shut down. Go with Smallwood. The more difficult matchups are going to be on the outside today against DC. DC has the number 1 defense. Nelson Spruce runs all of his routes out of the slot. Look, Nelson Spruce at his price point, he can catch 5 balls for 70 yards today, and it's considered a bad day. But on a 2-game slate, 12 fantasy points are hard to ignore. I don't think that Nelson Spruce, the trying to, what do they say, galaxy brain it and fading Nelson Spruce today, it could pay off for you. I don't actually see the reasonable reasons to do that. Similar with Cam Phillips yesterday. The guy's playing 100% of the snaps. Yes, the price point may be your only reasonable reason to fade him, but he's in the number 1 offense, playing 100 snaps, and both the starting cornerbacks were out yesterday for Tampa. Where's the reason you're fading Cam Smith or Cam Phillips? Today, the best matchup on the entire field for LA is in the slot. And that's where Nelson Spruce is. Not because of his skill set, because of the defender against him. So the best player on the field for offense is going up against the worst position on the defense to cover that. There's a much better pass rush for DC, so quicker passes, get the ball out quicker. They're not throwing to their running backs and Elijah Hood, so who's going to benefit from that? It's probably going to be Nelson Spruce. So I understand the conception of he's going to be 90%, 80% owned today. I get all that. Fading him, you're doing it because of ownership, I guess, at that point. But to try and craft a reason other than ownership to fade him today is really difficult. If he has 6 catches for 70 yards and 13 fantasy points, there's a great chance he's needed on this slate because there's just not many other wide receivers in flex options. Like maybe one running back scores more than 13 fantasy points today. Maybe 1 to 2 wide receivers do, 3 maybe, but there's a good chance he's needed even on his floor days. And he's also just not leaving the field. Like it's similar to Phillips where he's on the field nonstop. So I understand from an ownership perspective to fade Spruce. I get it. He's going to be highly owned. But from an actual like payoff situation from that, he would have to get hurt today for me to see him not producing. His catch rate is fantastic based on the routes he's running, and he has the best matchup on the field. Smallwood all in and one more Wildcat. Yeah, Smallwood should run on the outside. The downside is if Trey McBride is actually active, he'll rotate in for all of those guys. Smallwood's look good. Yeah, played him week 1. He was okay. I actually like Smallwood's talent. I've been on Dunbar every week, 3.4% owned week 1. Yeah, and just people didn't know he was active because whoever the intern is on the Dallas's depth chart rankings in the PR department put Smallwood as out and not on the depth chart. Or not Smallwood, at Dunbar. Please don't burn out, says Bon Tone Royer. I don't know what that means. Favorite wide receiver under 4K? Blacknall, question mark. Blacknall, Joe Horn under 4K are the only guys I would go to. Maybe Trey McBride if you're really trying to get risky, if he's active. So right now, Horn and McBride are questionable. McBride, there's a big issue with LA today. They're going to throw the ball a lot. You know, Smallwood and Spruce should be out there. They don't throw the running backs. So your upside is that lots of passes to wide receivers. But you're going to be rotating between, on the outside, Smallwood, Blacknall, Jennings, and potentially Trey McBride. That's a lot of receivers in the rotation. Now, it could just simply be that McBride doesn't play or doesn't run a lot of routes, and then you get Saeed Blacknall from week 1's usage, some Adonis Jennings, but it's really hard to pinpoint what happens there. You have to create a narrative in your head at that point that Spruce is going to stay on the field, Smallwood should remain on the field for a good amount of usage, Saeed Blacknall should work ahead of Jennings. What the hell happens with Trey McBride? I don't know. He was drafted high in the XFL draft. They traded for him for Rashad Ross. I don't know how they will use him. He can easily go out there and run 30-plus routes, or he can run none. There's really no reports on it right now. Any good, cheap running backs? Good is, the answer to good is no. The New York running backs are both in the 4K range. Christian Michael's at 5,200. Do you see anyone behind Michael as a punt? Yeah, Darius Victor probably for me. Do you like any St. Louis and New York wide receivers? Yeah, I think McCall McKay's in a great GPP spot, getting a ton of air yards. I think Alonzo Russell is interesting at his price point from St. Louis, but I'm really not all that thrilled with the St. Louis passing offense based on how much we've seen from the first 2 weeks. I think that Colby Pearson is an interesting option if Joe Horn is out. Horde's been running out of the slot, but Pearson does have some upside. There's the price point's tough to really want to get to. Hafa Bra here. What's going on, man? Love these live XFL shows on game day. Seems stacking strategy are different on both sites. FanDuel yesterday was stack 1, and running backs in flex were spotted in top 10. Is that for the 2-game slate, I'm assuming? FanDuel, like 2-game slate? So was it like the 2 running backs from the same team then? Dunbar plus Artis Payne? Tompkins is my lock for today. Yeah, if there was one player to lock in yesterday, it was Parm for me. Ended up locking him in 100%. And then today it would be Tompkins if you're picking one player. Those were the 2 most... I mentioned it on the Patreon stream or the Patreon podcast and stuff. The 2, without a doubt, most underpriced players on the entire slate were Donald Parham and DeAndre Tompkins. Love the content on Patreon. Already paid off 10x. Attaboy, Jason. Yeah, nice work, man. Good stuff. If you're interested in Patreon, I'll drop a link for that as well. We got 350 plus people over there right now. PGA content, NBA, it's just me. I'm an independent content creator. Don't have any contractors, just me under my LLC. That's the link to Patreon, XFL content. I do a Tuesday recap of the previous week, key stats, what we learned, things that we can latch onto, things that were probably fluky. I have a snap counts for every single player in the league data sheet, as well as targets and touches and usage data sheets that go out Monday and Tuesday, as well as that podcast. Later in the week, Friday, tiers and rankings, and then on Saturday, closing thoughts. That's XFL schedule. NBA projections every single day, interest pools updated up and throughout lock. And then PGA is the podcast and data sheets early in the week before the event starts on Thursdays. Do you think Cardale Jones passes for over 250 yards and rushes for 50 plus? I would say not rushes for 50 plus, no. 250, right around there. McKay is a lock. I think McKay is a very strong contrarian type of play. He's getting a ton of air yards. He's getting elite usage, 36% of the team's air yardage, third most in the league. The issue for him is that his team is just playing so slow. Now they're facing a very fast team today. Maybe after last week's debacle with Matt McGloin in the offense, they changed some things up. Strong secondary, so everything matchup-wise looks bad for McKay. Everything usage-wise compared to how it's worked out looks great. He should have another touchdown and 70 more receiving yards this year, and then he'd be priced like 9 to 10K, and people would be playing him today. But Matt McGloin overthrew him on 2 deep passes, both which would have been 30-plus yard receptions, one probably a touchdown. Are you banking on any New York and St. Louis wide receivers? I'm not banking on any of them. I think McKay's the best option out of both of those. Alonzo Russell and then Joe Horn/Pearson are interesting lower-owned options. They were running one regular running back and had one in the flex. Most were going all wide receiver in the flex. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you had both running backs from Dallas and one in the flex, one in the running back slot. Yeah, I mean on these 2-game slate, it's so variant that if one running back has if one running back has 14 fantasy points today and another one has 30 yards and a touchdown and has 10 to 9 fantasy points, 2 running backs are very possibly going to be needed depending on price points. So yeah, on the 2-game slate, I'm much more open to playing 2 running backs. But the wide receivers are still just the more optimal plays. Like when you have the opportunity of 5 to 6 targets out of Russell and 6 to 8 out of Tompkins today at similar to cheaper price points than all those running backs, it's just really harder to want to prioritize them. Had 100% Parm and Cam Phillips yesterday. Yeah, I went 100% Parm, and Cam Phillips was my next highest owned player. So I didn't go 100% on him just because then you get a pretty much identical build out of all your lineups. But I had a couple of other lineups that did not have Phillips, but still had, I think, like 85% Phillips. So we are in line for a good week. A lot of pretty much my quarterbacks of ownership are Josh Johnson for the 4-game slate and Phillip Walker. So at this point, we are pretty much where we need to be for a strong week, as long as the likes of Tompkins and Josh Johnson today and, Rashad Ross's and the Spruce's, they don't all cave out today. Oh, yeah. All right. Is it McBride still questionable? Yeah, he's questionable. McBride's questionable. LaDainian Washington and Joe Horn are all questionable today. XFL is very similar to college football DFS right now. I don't really play college football DFS, so does that mean like running backs aren't as much of a priority? Thanks, Al. Gotta run. Subscribe and like, peeps. Thanks, man. Have a good day. Tompkins still a good play on FanDuel at a higher salary. Yeah, FanDuel actually ended up doing a nice job getting their players priced up this past week. I'm prioritizing and mainly playing on DraftKings, but I do have some FanDuel contests in. Yeah, they did a much better job of pricing up their players. The issue with FanDuel is just the 4-game slates aren't there. Like, they're there, but the price pools aren't following it. So, like, how can I get excited to play a XFL slate when I have to pick 2-game variant slates? But they did a much better job pricing up Tompkins to the second most expensive guy. Yeah, Tompkins is a very strong play on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's in play. Don't be fading him, but he's priced similar to Nelson Spruce, and I don't think he's got that type of dominance in his offensive market share of targets, right? You have Rashad Ross out there for $2 less on FanDuel, $17 compared to $19. You have Eli Rogers for $15 on FanDuel. That's a criminal price. By all accounts, the proper way to price the DC receivers is probably all of them in the upper 8K range on DraftKings type of pricing. by all accounts. That's how it should be based on the consistency that they're seeing and just how it's probably one of the 2 or 3 offenses in the league that actually has a very manageable and serviceable passing game and quarterback and coaching staff right now. So the fact that Tompkins is $4 more expensive on FanDuel than Rodgers and $2 more expensive than Ross, I don't think it means he can't be worth it. But like I'm playing Nelson Spruce over DeAndre Tompkins. I'd probably rather play Ross and Rodgers over Tompkins on FanDuel. But that being said, you can play multiple of them. You can get up to 3 of them if you want. I would probably go no more than 2. Just got here. Cardale Jones or Ta'amu if I can fit either. If you're playing cash, Cardale Jones. If you're playing GPPs, Cardale Jones should be the highest owned quarterback. Ta'amu might be the second highest owned. I have the least interest in Ta'amu, and then I'd have more interest in playing Josh Johnson and or Matt McGloin in GPPs today on the 2-game slate. But Sal, Cardale Jones is better. Ta'amu scored 30 points last week. Yes, I get that. And that's what every single person that's going to be playing GPPs today is going to do. Matt McGloin might be like 15% owned in these 2-game GPPs, and I would want double that. Josh Johnson, maybe he comes in at 30% owned. I would want close to double that. I'm not playing the GPPs to min cash. If I was, I would just play cash games, right? On the 2-game slate, I will prioritize Josh Johnson, Matt McGloin. Just because they'll be lower owned. You leave more money on the table. You're more unique. I think Cardale Jones is the best play on the slate pure projection-wise, but if he scores 20 fantasy points and you get 19 out of Josh Johnson for cheaper, or maybe you get 21 out of him, right? It's not out of the possibility. Cardale Jones and also the 2 most expensive guys are touchdown favorites today. Jordan Ta'amu in an offense that only wants to throw the ball 40% of the time, he'll probably throw 24 times today. Cardale Jones, they don't want to throw all that much. They really don't need to. They're going to be huge favorites with a strong defense today. He probably throws 28 times. Whereas Josh Johnson, I think, throws 30 plus. Whereas Matt McGloin, I think, throws 30 plus today. So I'll take the cheaper, lower-owned quarterbacks who are going to throw the ball more. Josh Johnson looks like the best option today, in my opinion, just because his offense is actually going to be a little bit more weapons-wise, 1, better, and 2, they just play faster than the slow-paced New York team. Is he talking about Tristan Thompson? No, we're talking about the XFL here, DeAndre Tompkins. FanDuel needs to get positions right. The top 10 all had Flowers in at running back or flex when he's clearly a QB. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that Flowers was a running back yesterday for FanDuel. Has he been that the whole season, or was it just last week? What was his price point? Who's the best defense play? Yeah, St. Louis and DC look like the 2 best options depending on how much money you want to spend. You want to leave money on the table, St. Louis looks fine. I think overall DC's defense looks like the best defense in the league, but if you're talking fantasy perspective and upside, I think St. Louis looks good. And I also have 0 issues with playing defenses against my quarterbacks today. 0. It's a 2-game slate. You're probably going to have to play guys against your defense. The end of the day, the defense that gets the punt return touchdown or the pick 6, and pick 6 is, if my quarterback throws a pick 6, I am happy if I have that defense, right? It knocks a point off your quarterback. You get 8 from the pick 6, and then your quarterback's right back out there probably throwing more. So I think pick 6s probably correlate with better upside for both of those, right, at that point. FanDuel prizes are low. Got 94th in the quarter. GPP won 275. Yikes. Flowers was $12 in FanDuel. He scored 10.94 points. Yeah. Yeah, he should not have been a running back. He literally plays quarterback. So, what are your honest thoughts on Ta'amu hitting that mark with St. Louis not being a passing team? Yeah, I would have Ta'amu ranked 4th for me today in GPPs at quarterback. I would have him ranked 4th. He'd be my last option at quarterback today. Factoring in price, factoring in ownership, factoring in the actual game flow of that game. If this was cash, I'd probably have him ranked 3rd. But it's GPP, so I'll have him ranked 4th. You didn't play Flowers. No, I'm not really playing on FanDuel at all. I didn't play on FanDuel yesterday. I'll probably play a little bit over there today. They just don't have a 4-game slate. Their 4-game slates are like $100 to first place. Who wants to play that? Do you wager on games or have an interest? Wagering, like sports betting, I don't really have much of an interest. I'll do player props for like NFL, but Yeah, I mean, the XFL actually is very soft lines. If you've been betting unders, you've been fantastic. Week 1, you would have gotten the softest lines in sports betting in football, at least in years, in decades. But no, I think sports betting, although it's a moneymaker for casinos and content sites, I think it's an entertainment mainly thing. You're not going to actually win money sports betting. But Sal, I've won $20 this month sports betting. Okay, keep sports betting minus 110 odds, not your one lucky parlay hit, or you betting $1,000 on a minus 500 win. If you bet at minus 110 odds long term, there's about 1% of people in the country, the world, less than that probably that are profitable. So just odds are, by a strong margin, you're probably not going to win. So I recognize that, and you're betting against the house, right? In DFS, you're playing against other people. There's percentages. You're actually using edges or whatever's left of them. Sports betting, I personally think, is an entertainment thing only, and that's why it's really difficult to want to make content around it, because it's a losing game for a majority of people. And the way to win is to get one lucky and to bet lines the second they come out and have a very strong grasp on the market, and maybe even influence the lines with the amount of money you're putting down on them. Flowers was how you could afford Walker, Phillips, and Parm. Yeah, on FanDuel, that makes sense. Ross or Pearson L for better play. I'll go Ross there. All right, gang, I might bounce. Been on for about 50 minutes for this 2-game slate. That feels like enough. Before you leave, if you're watching live or on the replay, don't really know how many people are going to want to watch this replay. Go ahead, follow me on Twitter. I just posted the link in the live stream. Go ahead and also hit the subscribe button, notification bell before you leave. You can check out the basketball video and podcast that I put up this weekend as well. But I'm doing a $50 giveaway announced tomorrow, and only 4 people have gone into it so far. So if you think that your 20% chance of winning $50 without risking anything is worth it, I would think that it is for literally something that takes 30 seconds. The link that I just posted to Audio Boom, you go there, and then it'll say subscribe. It'll have the podcasts. Each one of those that you subscribe to will count as one entry into a giveaway for $50. If you leave a review on Apple Podcasts, it will count as 2 more. Right now, 5 people have put it into this raffle. All of them have just subscribed to one platform, so all of them have one entry. If you go right now and you subscribe on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, you just have 3 of the 8 entries. Pretty good odds, but $50 giveaway to be announced tomorrow. Subscribing to the podcast, so pretty much what it does, so you have a reason to why I want to do this, is we're ranked, I believe today we're ranked 13th in fantasy sports podcasts. The more people that subscribe in one day pushes up the algorithm. It's the biggest thing that's actually known to do that. But then from a perspective of reviews, it doesn't do anything to the algorithm, but it makes you just look more reputable from a standpoint of, like, if third parties want to reach out to me, oh, this guy's got 2 podcast reviews, he's not legit, because they can't see my data on how many people listen to it. If they see 500 to 1,000 reviews, it's like, okay, well, if that many people are reviewing it, there's probably multiples more listening and watching it. So yeah, be sure to, if you can, $50 up for grabs there if you want to subscribe to as many of these platforms as possible and leave a review. This is the sheet. These are the platforms right here. Apple, CastBox, all these. Each one that you subscribe to counts as one entry for $50 giveaway, Apple. So that's the plug. That's the big, long, drawn-out plug. Thank you. Before we leave, Scalacia, $5 donation to the stream and to myself. He says, coffee on me. Thank you, man. Maybe I'll go do that and get some coffee. Appreciate it. Everybody have a good rest of your day. I'm in the 50. I'm RJB on Twitter and Instagram. Yep, you are one of them, Fortune Fantasy. You are one of them for sure. Thank you, sure. Yeah, have a good day. Have a good day, Fortune Fantasy. Have a good day, Jimmy Touchdown. Wildcats and Defenders going over. Fair enough. That should be a fun game. 2 pretty strong quarterbacks from what it seems. Best of luck, everybody, today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. Stay safe. Enjoy your loaded day of fantasy sports and real life sports. Peace out, gang. Peace out, gang. Peace out, gang.